A secluded 208-acre site sheltered by neighbouring hills at Chilwell near Nottingham was chosen for the location of one of Britain's largest shell filling factories. Its location was midway between the shell production centres in the north of England and the Channel ports. Much of the research and development plus design for the factory was undertaken by Godfrey John Boyle Lord Chetwynd. This included the preparation of the explosive amatol, an 80-20 mixture of powdered ammonia, nitrate and TNT, and its pressurised powder filling process into empty shells. The basis for this process was ultimately selected was that used by French munitions industry and not that previously employed at the Royal Arsenal in Woolwich. Construction of the factory commenced on the 15th of September 1915 and it was opened in January 1916. Its operation was managed by the contracting company Holland, Hannon and Cubbett Limited on behalf of the Ministry of Munitions, although Lord Chetwynd maintained a close association with the works throughout its operational life. The National Shelling Factory No. 6 comprised of two parts, the North and the South Works, which were separated by a road. The North Works comprised of separate ammonium nitrate and TNT mills, the amatol mixing houses, and the works canteens. The south side housed explosive stores plus large storage sheds for both the filled and empty shells. As would expected from the size of the factory, it had a large workforce, and that in March 1917 stood at 7,452, of whom 1,730 were women. The site's amatol explosives preparation plant employed innovative series of processing stages. Many of them incorporated machines adapted from the food and mineral processing industries. Multi-storey structures were built to dry and crush TNT and ammonium nitrate, using machines originally used in quarrying or sugar making to produce a fine flour-like powder, which was then mixed and carried, while still warm from the milling, by conveyor belts to pressing houses. This continuous process was more efficient than earlier milling arrangements, which could only manage small batches of materials at a time. Great care was also taken to remove any residual free moisture from the finished explosives and to avoid it shaking, which might cause the two powders to separate. Throughout the Great War, there were several attempts by Zeppelins to bomb the site, using the course of the River Trent as a means of locating the factory. After one such unsuccessful raid, Lord Chetwynd turned it to his advantage by spreading rumours that 3 German spies had been caught trying to signal the Zeppelin with lights. To further embellish the pretense that the spies had been captured and subsequently shot, he had one of the works police guards stand sentry outside an empty room in the factory all day, and at night had workmen from the factory dig 3 graves in a nearby hillside. The graves were later observed to have been backfilled with black posts sunk at the head of each. The rumour of the spies executed was accepted as an unquestioned fact and served as a deterrent warning to any other spies or trespassers on the site. On the 1st of July 1918, an explosion of 8 tons of TNT occurred on the site, killing 104 workers, of which only 32 could be positively identified. A further 250 were injured. Most of the dead were buried in a mass grave nearby in Attenborough churchyard without being named. Although an inquiry was held, the cause of the explosion was never identified. In a speech reported in the Times newspaper, 9th of July 1918, Mr. F.G. Kellaway MP, the Parliament Secretary to the Ministry of Munitions, speculated that, as the French had apparently given an honour to the citadel of Verdun for its services to France, perhaps the factory at Chilwell should be awarded the Victoria Cross. Whilst this award does not appear to have been made, the site was subsequently known as the VC factory. Reconstruction after the explosion damage to the site commenced almost immediately, but it was still ongoing when the armistice was declared. Thereafter, production ceased. During its production, the factory filled over 50% of the 60-pounder and 15-inch shells used by the British during the Great War. Around 19,250,000 shells. In addition, it also filled naval mines and aerial bombs. After the war site remained in government hands, it reopened during the Second World War as the Royal Ordnance Depot. It is now occupied by the Ministry of Defence. Several buildings of the original filling factory still survive, notably the larger former filled shell store.